The herd had already moved on. Only she stayed behind. The old matriarch could not leave that place. She had lost something there that no elephant can simply walk away from. And then the wind carried a sound to her, small, hungry, alive. And for the first time in days, the matriarch lifted her head. She had been the leader of her family once, in the full sense of the word, the oldest, the wisest, the one who remembered where the water hid in the worst of the dry years and which paths were safe when the rivers rose. A matriarch carries her whole family in her memory. They followed her because she had never once led them wrong. But there are some things even the wisest matriarch cannot lead her family around. And in the worst stretch of that dry season, the thing every elephant mother fears had come for her, quietly, the way it comes, and the small one who had walked in her shadow was no longer walking beside her. The herd had grieved. Elephants do. They had stood close and touched her with their trunks and stayed longer than animals are supposed to stay. But the dry season does not wait for grief, and water does not come to the grieving, and in time, the family had to move on to live. They had called to her to follow, and the old matriarch had not followed. She stayed in that place, alone, beside the absence. She could not make her great body carry her away from it. Day after day, she stood where her family had last been whole, swaying slowly, reaching her trunk out toward a space at her side where something small should have been and was not. The herd grew distant on the horizon. The grief held her there like an anchor sunk into the earth. She was a mother with all the love in the world and nowhere left to put it, until the wind changed and carried her a sound. It was thin and hoarse and insistent, coming from a stand of brush near the dry riverbed. A cry, small, hungry, alive. The matriarch lifted her head, and for the first time in days, her body remembered how to move toward something instead of staying still beside what was gone. She followed the sound through the brittle grass, and what she found stopped her. A lion cub, a little lion, golden and trembling, alone, so young she could barely stand. The grass beyond her was crushed into a long trail that led away and did not return. Whatever had walked off down that trail had not come back. The little lion was crying into an enormous empty world that was not answering her. She was a lion. The matriarch's whole long memory told her what that meant. Lions are the terror of the herd. They take the young, the weak, the ones who fall behind. Every dry season, the prides shadow the elephants, waiting. A lion cub becomes a lion, and a lion is the oldest danger an elephant mother knows. The matriarch should have turned away. Instead, she reached out with her trunk, slowly, the way she had reached toward the empty space at her side for days, and she touched the little lion. She felt the smallness of her, the racing heart, the hunger, the alone, and something in the great grieving body of the matriarch, something that had been straining with nowhere to go, finally found its direction. Here was a small thing that needed exactly what she had been carrying and could not put down. She did not care in that moment that the little lion was a lion. The dry season had emptied her of everything except the need to mother something, and the savannah had set down in front of her the one creature in all the world that needed mothering as badly as she needed to give it. She curled her trunk around the little lion, gently, and drew her in close against the warm wall of her leg. And the lion cub, who had been crying into the void, went quiet against the largest, safest thing she had ever felt. The matriarch stopped swaying. She stopped reaching toward the empty space. For the first time since the herd moved on, she had somewhere to put her love. The days that followed gave the savannah an impossible sight, a great old elephant moving slowly across the plain and trotting in her vast shadow, never more than a step from her leg, a little lion. The matriarch set her enormous pace to the cub's small one. When the little lion tired, the matriarch stopped and waited, fanning her ears against the heat, standing guard over a sleep that was not her own child's and had become, somehow, exactly that. But the herd came back. As the dry season broke and the rains returned, the matriarch's family circled back through the old range, searching for the leader they had left behind. And when they found her, they found the scent of lion all over her, and the little golden shape trotting at her leg, and the herd recoiled. Elephants do not forgive the smell of lion. The mothers pulled their own calves close and backed away. They rumbled their alarm, low and deep, the sound that means danger, the sound that means run. The family that had grieved beside her now could not come near her because she carried the enemy against her own leg. The matriarch stood between her herd and the little lion, and she understood the choice the savannah was forcing on her. She could leave the cub. She could walk back into her family, into the warm, crowded safety of her own kind, into the only world an elephant is meant to want. They would take her back. The grief would still be there, but she would not be alone with it. Or she could keep the small thing that had given her a reason to lift her head again. The matriarch looked at her family, and then she lowered her trunk and laid it over the little lion, and turned her great body so that she stood between the herd and the cub, guarding the enemy from her own kind. She chose her. The wisest leader on the plain chose the one creature her whole family could not forgive, because that creature had pulled her back from the edge of her own grief, and there are debts the heart pays no matter what the herd demands. And the little lion grew. She grew long and strong in the matriarch's shadow, and she learned things no lion learns. She learned the slow patience of the great ones. She learned to stand close, to touch, to stay. Most of all, without anyone teaching her, she learned the deepest thing the matriarch had to give, that you do not abandon what you love, that you stay beside it, that some bonds are not broken even by the thing that breaks all bonds. But the blood in her was lion's blood, and the matriarch, who had already lost one child to the dry season, knew she would lose this one to life. There came a day when the young lioness began to hear the prides on the wind and turn her head toward a call the matriarch could never answer. And the matriarch did the last and greatest thing a grieving mother can do. She did not hold on. She of all creatures knew what it was to refuse to let go. She had stood beside an absence until it nearly took her too. And she would not make this little lion her anchor. She would not keep her in the shadow of an elephant when her own kind was calling her into the sun. On the morning the young lioness stood at the edge of the range and looked out at a pride in the distance, the matriarch reached out one last time with her trunk and touched the side of her face. The same trunk that had drawn her in from the cold, the same gesture she had once reached toward an empty space at her side. And then she let it fall, and she stepped back. The little lion she had raised walked out toward the pride. A lioness rose, took her scent, and led her in. And the old matriarch stood alone in the new green grass and watched the little lion become a lion at last, until she could no longer tell which of the golden shapes belonged to the cub who had given her back her own heart. Then she turned and walked to her family, and this time, with the lion's scent fading from her in the rains, the herd opened and led her home. She had learned how to move on. The little lion had taught her that, not by leaving, but by living. The seasons turned, and the young lioness took her place among her pride and became one of its strong ones, a mother in time herself. and she carried one thing that set her apart from every lion on the plain. When a lioness loses one of her own, and lions too know that loss, she grieves and moves on, because the pride must hunt and the cubs must be fed, and the savannah does not wait. But this lioness did not move on quickly. When she lost one of hers, she stayed. She stood beside the place. She reached toward the absence with a slowness that was not a lion's slowness at all. She mourned the way the great ones mourn, refusing to simply walk away, staying long after staying made any sense. She did not know why. She had no memory of the matriarch, no picture of the trunk that had drawn her in, no name for the grief that had once made room for her. She only carried beneath all her lion's strength the deepest lesson she had ever been given: that you stay beside what you love, that you do not leave, that some loves are too large to simply walk away from, even when the whole world is moving on. And somewhere on that same plain, an old matriarch lived out her last good seasons among the family that had taken her back, never knowing that out in the gold, a lioness grieved like an elephant, because once, a grieving elephant had loved her like the child she had lost, and that love had been so large it outlived the memory of where it came from.